Hello to fellow fans of Battlestar Galactica. Have you ever tried exploring the diverse and fascinating characters that contribute to making this show the iconic series that it is today? Well, in today's video, we'll dive deep into the story of every important character in this legendary sci-fi series. We will cover everything from the original 1978 show to the super cool reboot in 2004. And trust us, we won't leave any stone unturned. Prepare to dive deep into all the characters you know and love, from the brave Adama to the mysterious Styx. We will not only mention each of them, but also examine the stories of these important characters in detail. We will try to understand their motives and the significance to the overall plotline. So whether you're a devoted fan or new to the world of Battlestar Galactica, this video will surely keep you hooked for more. So grab your popcorn and let's set out on this epic journey together.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Crashdown, Dreaded Sweeps indicated it's time to break out the swim trunks because we found water. Repeat.
Number 1. William Adama. We'll start out with Admiral William Adama. One of the most iconic characters of Battlestar Galactica, Adama was not born in a normal situation. His birth happened amidst the turmoil of the Sylon War. He came from a family on Caprica that had origins in Tauron. After he was selected into the army, he piloted several spacecraft with great skill, and he earned the name Husker. Following some time in the commercial fleet, he rejoined the armed forces and advanced through the levels to reach the position of commander. However, shockingly enough, Adama's professional life experienced a bit of a slowdown when he found himself assigned to the rusty old Galactica, which was meant to be decommissioned pretty soon. But due to his decision against updating the technology on board, the Galactica withstood the Cylon destruction and turned into mankind's final chance for survival. Adama worked together with President Roslin to guide a desperate group of survivors on a wild goose chase for Earth, and his leadership skills? Let's just say they were off the charts. This guy could navigate through a storm of bullets and politics with equal finesse. Oh, and fun fact, according to the 2003 story Bible, he'd been rocking the rank of commander for a solid 5 years before everything went to hell. Now that's what we call everlasting power.
Hey Apollo, not that I'm not honored by being chosen to sit in my cockpit for the next 3 hours.
Number 2. Cara Starbuck Thrace. Now let's talk about Cara Starbuck Thrace, the badass Viper pilot of Battlestar Galactica. This chick was the definition of a maverick. Let us tell you why. So Starbuck wasn't your average pilot. Nope, she was a natural-born ace with a streak as wild as a stormy sea. And her name? Well, it's derived from Old Norse, meaning the wild, stormy one, which suits her pretty perfectly. Her attitude? Let's just say it didn't always play nice with the top brass, which probably held her back a bit in the career advancement department. Born on Pycon after the Cylon War, Starbuck didn't exactly plan on a lifelong military gig. Nah, she joined up for the Pyramid team, aiming for a shot at the big leagues. But fate had other plans. An injury to her knee dashed those dreams, sending her back to the military grind. But hey, turns out she was a natural in the cockpit. Her skills were off the charts, and she quickly became one of the fleet's top guns. Yet despite her bravado and swagger, her end came tragically when her Viper went boom, leaving us all wondering if she made it out alive. Starbuck may be gone, but her legend lives among the stars. Number 3. Lee Apollo Adama. We all know that Lee Apollo Adama is a skilled pilot who has to live up to some pretty high expectations. Lee was not just a regular pilot. He was the son of the famous Admiral William Adama. Growing up, it was his mother who took care of him after his parents separated during his childhood. Soon enough, Lee developed a passion for flying, just like his father. However, the interesting part is that he had no desire to use his dad to get the easy way to the top. Nope, Lee wanted to carve out his own path in the fleet. So after college, he dove headfirst into the colonial military reserves, determined to prove himself on his own terms. And boy did he ever. Graduating third in his class from the academy, he shot straight into flight school, where he showed off his natural talent for flying. After acing flight school, Lee became a lieutenant in the Colonial Fleet Reserve, racking up some serious experience both in the air and on the ground. But that's where it got juicy. His old man, Admiral Adama, dropped a bombshell, naming Lee as his successor to command the Galactica in his resignation letter. Talk about big shoes to fill.
He said that it was imperative for a leader to remember and learn.
Number 4. Laura Roslin. Let's chat about Laura Roslin, the powerhouse politician. Now, Laura's story is a bit unique because she never actually got elected to office. Talk about making your own path. Portrayed by the talented Mary McDonnell, Laura Roslin is a character you won't forget in a hurry. And get this, she's utterly original to the reimagined series, with no counterpart in the actual show. So where did her name come from? Well, it's a blend of Laura Bush and Rosalynn Carter, the first ladies of the US, when the show premiered. Cool, huh? And here's a shocker. Laura didn't start out in politics. She was a school teacher of all things. It was under the mayoral reign of Richard Adar that she dipped her toes into the political pool. Reluctantly joining his campaign, she ended up snagging the gig as Secretary of Education. Talk about a career change. What sets Laura apart is her blend of political and spiritual leadership. While Commander Adama handles the military side of things, Laura's got the whole political spiritual vibe going on. Some even see her as a critical player in the ancient prophecy. No pressure, right? So whether you see her as a religious figure or a savvy politician, there's no denying Laura Roslin's impact on the fleet and the series as a whole.
No, but you're not.
Number 5. Gaius Baltar. Let's dive into the world of Dr. Gaius Baltar, the genius turned president turned religious icon. Picture this, a brilliant scientist with a dash of ego the size of a planet. That's Baltar for you. He started off as a hotshot defense systems developer, but soon found himself in the limelight for his computer wizardry. Oh, and did we mention he ended up becoming president of the 12 colonies? Talk about a career shift. But here's the kicker. He's not your typical hero. Nope, Baltar has a shady past. Born and raised on a dairy farm in Sylon, he hightailed it out of there as soon as he hit 18, leaving his family and accent behind in the dust. The dude trained himself to talk without that Sylon twang, just so folks wouldn't peg him as a country bumpkin. And get this, his first name, Gaius? Yeah, it's straight out of ancient Rome, borrowed from Julius Caesar himself. Talk about lofty aspirations, right? But where Caesar had ambitions, Baltar's got pure, unadulterated vanity. Charismatic? Oh, you bet. But don't let that fool you. He's also got enough arrogance to fill a Battlestar. And speaking of Battlestars, did you know Baltar holds the record for the most Cylon lovers in the series? 6! Can you believe it? Guess even geniuses have a weak spot. Love him or hate him, Baltar's one hell of a character, weaving his way through the galaxy with charm, wit, and a whole lot of baggage.
She shoots. She scores.
Number 6. Alright, let's talk about number 6. The iconic blonde bombshell Sylon from Battlestar Galactica. So imagine this. You've got these humanoid Cylons, right? And then there's the number 6 model. Tall, statuesque, with that signature blonde hair. And get this, there are millions of them out there, all clones of the same basic prototype. But here's where it gets interesting. Each number 6 has the same basic personality, but they're not just mindless drones. Oh no, when one of them bites the dust, their memories get uploaded to this cloud server sort of thing, so other 6s can access them. Talk about creepy, right? Now the ones who snuck into human society before the whole fall of the colonies went down, they're a bit different. They're more individualistic, customizing their appearances, and even coming up with their own names. To be fair, who wouldn't want to stand out a bit if they were infiltrating humanity? And let's not forget the actress behind these iconic Cylons, Tricia Helfer. She adds the perfect level of beauty and fatality to the character, which makes number 6 very memorable. So regardless of whether you support humans or Cylons, it's hard to ignore how fascinating and complicated number 6 is. She's the ultimate femme fatale in a galaxy full of twists and turns. Number 7. Number 8. Boomer and Athena. Okay, let's dive into the world of number 8, the Cylon that's got the whole empathy thing going on. So you've got a few of these humanoid Cylon models, right? And then there's the 8. The youngest, and well, the one who's kind of the heart of the Cylon crew. What sets the 8s apart is their empathy and compassion. They're not your typical killer robots. They're kind of the softies of the Cylon bunch. When they're mingling with humans, they usually roll with the name Sharon. You've got 2 standouts in this group, Sharon Boomer Valeri and Sharon Athena Agathon. Now, Boomer, she was a real sneaky one, a sleeper agent on Galactica, thinking she's all human, but bam, she's actually programmed to be a saboteur and assassin. Talk about a double life. Then you've got Athena, assigned to cozy up to Carl Hilo Agathon on Caprica. Surprise, surprise, she goes rogue, falls for the guy, and switches sides, becoming a colonial officer on Galactica. And get this, the 2 Sharons finally meet in Season 3 mid-season finale. Talk about a family reunion, Cylon style. There are loads of 8s wandering around the Cylon crowd. And here's the kicker, there's no original human Sharon. They kind of figured us out on their own, evolving into these fascinating and sometimes downright confusing Cylon versions.
An obscure outpost in the Omega sector. The commander's name is Spectre.
Number 8. Lucifer. Let's move on to Lucifer, the Cylon big shot who had a roller coaster ride with Baltar. So Lucifer, this IL series Sylon, thought he was in for a promotion when the Imperious leader bit the dust. But nope, the new boss chose Baltar to lead the show, and Lucifer got the second-in-command gig. Talk about a plot twist. Lucifer and Baltar's dynamic was like a sci-fi soap opera, with trust issues and military strategies clashing in the weirdest ways. At first, Lucifer was all pumped about working with Baltar, thinking he could learn a thing or two from the sneaky human. But as it turns out, Baltar's grand plan to convince the humans they're bringing peace wasn't exactly a winner in Lucifer's books. He smelled something fishy and wasn't buying it. When Baltar decided to meet the humans himself, Lucifer, being the mistrustful type, saw a chance to score a military win. He ordered an attack while Baltar was on the planet, and things got messy. Cylon raiders wrecked the tombs, and poor Baltar ended up trapped under a pillar. Miraculously, Baltar bounced back and took charge again, but now things were tense between him and Lucifer. The Cylon wasn't exactly on board with all of Baltar's schemes, second-guessing him left and right. Talk about a drama-filled partnership in the pursuit of humanity.
Okay, you do me a favor? Tell Captain Apollo he owes me one wing.
Number 9. Gayen Tyrell. Buckle up, folks, because we're diving into the wild tale of Gayen Tyrell, the Cylon who has one hell of a backstory. So get this, Tyrell isn't your run-of-the-mill Cylon. Nope, he's descended from the 13th tribe and was born right here on Earth, around the same time the 12 tribes bailed on Cobalt. Talk about ancient roots. Guided by some cosmic messengers, Tyrell ended up with a bunch of brainy scientists who saw trouble brewing back on Cobalt. They had a heads up about this big war between the locals and their own robotic workforce, and it was going to end in a nuclear nightmare. Tyrell ended up getting blasted in one of those explosions, but luckily for him, his consciousness got downloaded into a new body up in space. Now here's where things got crazy. Tyrell got punished for his soft spot for humans. He was plonked back into action many years later with a fake backstory. He thought he was just a regular dude with some religious folks for parents, but then he ended up joining the colonial fleet, showing off his mechanical chops on different Battlestars before landing the gig as deck chief on Galactica. And here's the kicker, we're not even sure if Gayen Tyrell is his real name or just part of the cover story. Talk about a mind-bending mystery wrapped in a space saga. Number 10. Hilo Agathon. Let's have a chat about Captain Hilo Agathon, one of the gutsiest heroes out there. So you've got this handsome young guy, right? Always goes by the call sign Hilo, played by the awesome Tamo Pinnickett. He's young, sharp, and totally stands up for what's right, even if it means risking his own neck. That's some serious backbone, that's for sure. Now, before the whole attack mess, we don't know too much about Hilo's backstory, but things get really interesting when he ends up stranded on Caprica. That's where he meets a number 8 Cylon, later known as Athena. Sparks fly. They fall in love, and boom, they even have a kid named Hera. Talk about a wild ride. And here's the shocker. Hilo wasn't even supposed to stick around. Initially, he was just supposed to bite the dust when the Raptor bailed on him on Caprica. But guess what? He defied the odds and became one of the most essential characters in the whole damn series. Hilo's story feels like riding on a roller coaster filled with love, faithfulness, and a constant fight against Cylon enemies. He's the type of person you want to have by your side when everything goes south. With his strong need for justice and a kind heart, he's certainly one of the good forces in the universal fight for survival. Number 11. Cassiopeia. Meet Cassiopeia, or Cassie, a knockout survivor with a real head on her shoulders. Now picture her. Cassie's not just your average eye candy. She's got her own strengths and backstory to boot. In colonial language, Cassiopeia means fairy queen, and let us tell you, it really suits her. She's this tall, slim blonde with killer blue eyes. Talk about turning heads. Here's a fun fact. Cassie was initially supposed to end up as Ovion fodder in the premiere, but the producers saw actress Lauret Spang's charm and decided to keep her around. Smart move, we think. Now, we don't know much about her past, except that she sent out messages in some old Aryan merchant code as a kid. Fast forward to her adulting years, and she ends up a socialator, a gig she had to defend to other colonials. But guess what? Cassie flipped the script, became a medtech assistant to Dr. Salek, and rocked it. And get this, the sudden change was because ABC wasn't vibing with her initial role as a socialator, so they ordered her to switch to medtech. But Cassie owned it. She trained as a medical corpsman, and now that's her gig. Talk about a career change. So Cassiopeia isn't just a pretty face. She's a survivor who's carving her path in the chaotic universe of Battlestar Galactica. Cheers to Cassie for proving there's more to her than meets the eye. Number 12. Saul Tai. Okay, let's dive into the wild tale of Colonel Saul Tai. Saul's journey is like something out of a sci-fi novel, with twists, turns, and revelations that'll leave your head spinning. So Saul wasn't your average Joe. He was actually part of the 13th Tribe, a race of cybernetic beings that called Earth home until it got nuked to oblivion. Talk about a tough break, but here's where things get trippy. Saul and his wife got some divine intervention from angels right before the big boom. These celestial beings helped them escape, and Saul learned some mind-blowing truths along the way. It turns out that humans on Earth were actually descended from artificial humanoids who pieced out of Cobol. And to top it off, there was this whole cosmic war brewing between man and machine. Heavy stuff, right? So Saul kicks the bucket in all that chaos, but thanks to some crazy technology, his mind gets downloaded into an incredible, brand new body up in orbit. Talk about a second chance, right? He's one of just 5 survivors, and somehow he ends up blending in with humanity, totally convinced he's one of us. Oh, and here's a fun fact. In the original story Bible, he went by the name Saul Tai. Here's proof that even in the face of cosmic upheaval, there's always a glimmer of hope for redemption.
Important that we be safe. Ordinarily, we'd use trained Daggets.
Number 13. Iblis. Let's talk about Count Iblis, the slick trickster who nearly one-ups the whole damn fleet in Battlestar Galactica. Count Iblis is someone who can read minds very well, and has the skill to influence people that are pretty straightforward about their bad traits. He speaks so persuasively that he convinces others to join him with little to no effort. Here's how he became the abomination he is today. Iblis was once a creature of light, but he descended into darkness when he misused his abilities for evil causes. Talk about falling from grace, right? And get this, he goes by all sorts of names like Lucifer, Prince of Darkness, and the Devil. Basically, if it's got an evil vibe, he's probably been called it at some point. So our heroes, Captain Apollo and Lieutenants Sheba and Starbuck, stumbled upon this manifestation of evil itself. And guess what? Iblis pulled a fast one on them, making them think he was just some confused survivor in need of help. Sneaky, right? They even fell for his fake story so hard they brought him back to the fleet, thinking he was all friendly and benevolent. But surprise, surprise, Iblis isn't exactly the good guy he pretends to be. He ended up pulling a move straight out of a horror film, getting cast out for killing poor Apollo. Talk about a twist of fate. Count Iblis proves that even in a universe full of cosmic battles, the oldest trick in the book can still catch you off guard.
Okay, he wants us to set up forward observation posts hardwired back to base.
Number 14. Anastasia Duala. Let's talk about Anastasia D. Duala, this kick-ass comms officer aboard Battlestar Galactica. Dee's journey is one hell of a ride, from comms officer to a political player, with a whole lot of drama in between. So Dee wasn't just your average lady on the craft. She was the go-to gal for all things communication. Before that, she even held down the fort as the exec officer on another Battlestar until it bit the dust. Talk about climbing the ladder. Now, what drove her to join up with the military in the first place? Simple. She wanted to believe in something bigger than herself. And boy did she end up in the thick of it when the Cylons came knocking. During the chaos of the attack, Dee was on the ground, keeping an eye on the comms traffic, and noticing all the wonky stuff happening on other Battlestars. Talk about being on the watch. But here's where things get interesting. She was once married to Adama, the hotshot pilot. They split up though, and Dee found herself mixed up in some serious political drama, rigging an election in Roslin's favor. She knew Baltar winning would spell disaster, and she wasn't about to let that happen. But of course, secrets don't stay hidden for long, and Admiral Adama caught wind of her little plot. Talk about a sticky situation. She's proof that even in the chaos of war, there's still room for personal battles and tough decisions. Number 15. Billy Kakia. Let's move on to the prodigious Billy Kakia, the brains behind President Laura Roslin's operations. So you've got this guy, who's played by the incredible Paul Campbell. Now, before all the Cylon craziness kicked off, his folks moved to Pycon. But sadly, they didn't make it out alive during the attack. And get this, Billy had a brother who also bit the dust with them there. Talk about a rough hand dealt by fate. But despite his youth, Billy had some serious skills, especially when it comes to keeping things organized for Laura Roslin. She saw his potential and snatched him up as her right-hand man, sending him off to all sorts of essential gigs, like decommissioning ceremonies for Galactica. During that time, he picked up on something fishy with Roslin's health. It turns out she had cancer. Talk about a bombshell. After Roslin became president, Billy received a big promotion to senior aide, handling all sorts of important stuff, and even serving as the spokesperson for her administration. And despite some folks doubting his math skills, he's a real pro at keeping things running smoothly. But here's a real juicy bit. Off duty, Billy hits it off with Anastasia Duala, and before you know it, sparks fly. And they're an item. Talk about a sweet romance blooming in the midst of all the chaos. Billy may not have been the flashiest character, but he sure made his mark as the unsung hero of Roslin's team.
Take care of your mom.
How is she?
Number 16. Boxy. So let's talk about Boxy, the little survivor with a big heart. Honestly speaking, this kid's been through the ringer. Originally from Caprica, he's one of the few that made it out alive when the Cylons went on their rampage. And get this, he was super tight with this Daggett named Muffet, but tragically Muffet didn't make it, crushed by falling debris during the chaos. With his world turned upside down, Boxy found himself on the Rising Star, mourning the loss of his furry friend. But Flight Commander Apollo stepped in with a sweet gesture. He hooked Boxy up with a new Daggett, Muffet too, to help ease the pain. But Boxy's adventures didn't stop there. He's right in the thick of it during the planetary expedition to Carillon, getting himself into all sorts of scrapes with Muffet 2 by his side. Talk about a brave little dude. Things take a pleasant turn when he witnesses his mom and Apollo getting married, and he's happier than ever, sticking by his new family through thick and thin. And when his mom bites the dust, he and Apollo lean on each other for support, looking through the grief together. But here's the surprise, Boxy has some serious potential. Who knows, maybe one day he'll be just as much of a hero as his foster dad, Apollo, a legacy in the making. Number 17. Felix Gaeda. Lieutenant Felix Gaeda is undoubtedly the most brainiac officer from Battlestar Galactica. So Gaeda is this young hotshot in the colonial military, played by Alessandro Giuliani. Before all the craziness with the Cylons, he was studying genetics. Talk about a smarty pants. But when the attack hits, he's right in the thick of it, serving as a senior officer of the Watch aboard Galactica. Now Gaeda's not just your run-of-the-mill tactical officer. He's like the Swiss Army knife of the ship, handling everything from navigation to managing the computer system. Adama relies on him big time, even though he's still a junior officer. And get this, unlike most of the crew who get called by their rank, Gaeta is usually addressed as Mr. Gaeta. We're sure it's because of his youthful touch. But here's where things take a dark turn. After the fleet discovers Earth isn't the paradise they hoped for, Gaeta goes off the deep end and leads a mutiny against President Roslin. He even stages a coup aboard Galactica, taking over as commander for a hot minute, until Adama swoops in and takes back control. Unfortunately for Gaeta, his rebellion doesn't end well. He ends up facing a firing squad for his role in the whole mess. Talk about a tragic end for a once promising officer. Gaeta's story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of letting power go to your head. He may have been a genius, but in the end, it was his downfall.
Chief?
Number 18. Cali Henderson. Now let's talk about Cali Henderson Tyrell, or as everyone knows her, Cali. So Cali's this tough deckhand on Galactica, and she's got a thing for her boss, Gayen Tyrell. Even though she knows he's got some history with Sharon Boomer Valeri, she covers for him like a champ until Boomer's true colors as a Cylon come out. And boy does Cali's anger boil over. She ends up killing Boomer, earning herself some time in prison. But here's where things get interesting. After her release, Cali and Gayen patch things up and take the plunge, tying the knot and starting a family on New Caprica. Sounds like a happy ending, right? Wrong. The Cylons swoop in and wreck their dreams, almost getting Cali killed in the process. Back on Galactica, life isn't as easy for the Tyrells. Their marriage hits some rocky shores between raising a kid and dealing with the politics on the ship. But Cali's no pushover. She's the one pushing Gayen to fight for workers' rights and presses for a workers' strike, even if it means risking it all. But things take a tragic turn when she finds out Galen's a Cylon. She snaps, tries to take out Gayen and their kid, and ends up getting tossed into space by one of the final five. The crew thinks she has ended herself, but in reality, it's a heartbreaking end for a woman who just wanted a better life for her family.
We approach the 7th millennium of time. The human race at last will find peace.
Number 19. Adar. Let's talk about President Adar, the big shot in charge of the 12 colonies. So Adar was the head honcho during the Thousand Yaren War against the Cylons, but let's just say he wasn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. He got played like a fiddle by Count Baltar, who had wrapped him around his little finger. At Baltar's urging, Adar decided to go all in on peace talks with the Cylons, bringing the last Battlestar of the fleet along for a ride. But here's what was even worse about the whole situation. Baltar convinced Adar not to launch any Viper patrols, just in case it spooked the Cylons. Big mistake. It turns out they were caught in a trap, and the fleet got blindsided by the Cylon. Adar froze up, unable to give any orders, and before you know it, he was pretty much dead. Talk about a super significant screw-up. Adar's lack of backbone and poor judgment call cost the lives of many and left the fleet in shambles. His is a cautionary tale about the dangers of trusting the wrong people and not being prepared for the worst. Number 20. Kyle. Let's dive into Kyle's story now. Kyle's from this backwater planet called Attila, tucked away in the Omega Sector. When the Cylons roll in and start wrecking shop, Kyle and his family go full Rambo mode, fighting back with everything they've got. They turn the lush forests and marshes of Attila into their own personal battleground, launching hit-and-run attacks on the Cylon forces. Kyle steps up as the leader of the resistance, leading his family in a guerrilla war against the man-made invaders. Things get really intense when they capture Lieutenant Starbuck from the Colonial fleet. Kyle sees an opportunity to save his old man by trading Starbuck because he isn't in the mood to play fair. He pulls a sneaky move, swapping Starbuck for a dummy during the exchange. Talk about a shocking twist. But Kyle's not done yet. When Starbuck takes charge, Kyle and his crew kick things up a notch, launching a full-scale assault on the Cylon fortress. They manage to rescue Kyle's dad and keep the fight alive against the remaining Cylon forces. In the end, Kyle proves that even a bunch of scrappy rebels from a forgotten corner of the galaxy can make a difference in the fight against the machines. His story is a classic underdog tale with a twist of intergalactic warfare thrown in for good measure.
You're human. You have a soul. You swim in the stream. We heard it all before. Hey!
Number 21. Samuel Anders. Let's talk about the beloved Samuel T. Longshot Anders. So before all the chaos with the Cylons, Anders was this hotshot Viper pilot on Galactica, played by Michael Trucco. But get this, before that, he was the captain of the Caprica Buccaneers. Pretty cool, right? Now, here's where things get really interesting. During his time on Earth, he actually wrote a song that's identical to Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower. Talk about a wild coincidence. When the Cylons take over Caprica, Anders becomes the big cheese of the human resistance. But things take a turn for the worst when he gets shot in the head. Such a close call. Here's what happens next. After the surgery, he starts remembering stuff from his past life as a Cylon on Earth. He tries to spill the beans to his Cylon pals, but ends up in a coma instead. But wait, there's more. The rebel Cylons try to jumpstart his brain, and the next thing you know, he's acting like a hybrid, all plugged into Galactica's systems. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie. Sadly, his journey ends when he pilots Galactica and her fleet straight into the sun of the second Earth. Talk about a heroic sacrifice. Longshot Anders went out like a true legend, leaving behind one hell of a legacy.
Yeah! Good call, Boomer.
Number 22. Alex Crashdown Quartararo. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about Lieutenant Alex Crashdown Quartararo, played by the talented Samuel Witwer. Now, Crashdown is the sort of guy you want in the cockpit of your Raptor. He's got the whole Private Hudson vibe from Aliens going on about him. You know, the tough as nails, never back down type. He's a survivor from the Battlestar Triton, and man, does he come in handy for the fleet. He helps sniff out crucial stuff like fresh water, a telium mine, and even the planet Cobol. Talk about a valuable asset. Crashdown's also as loyal as they come, always ready to jump into action and do whatever it takes to help the cause. Plus, rumor has it he had a lady friend named Kimiko back in the day. Sounds like a real charmer, huh? Now, here's a fun fact. We never actually hear his real name on screen, but it's there on a playing card in the Battlestar Galactica collectible card game. Pretty shocking, huh? So, whether he's flying through space or cracking jokes with his crew, Crashdown's the kind of guy you want on your side when the going gets tough. He's a real unsung hero of the fleet. Marvelous verdict. So that's all, friends. We've explored in detail all the most important characters of this iconic sci-fi series, including courageous pirates such as Starbuck and Apollo, as well as controversial political personalities like President Roslin and Gaius Baltar. Every character has a distinct story, with personal challenges and victories that contribute depth to this vast tale in space. Through fierce fights with the Cylons and unfolding private dramas inside Galactica, the people have maintained their reputation, even after the most unexpected developments. The characters from Battlestar Galactica have won our affection and made us fall head over heels for them, so it's only fair that we raise a glass to honor the memorable team of the Galactica spaceship and the diverse group of characters that turn this series into an everlasting favorite. Thank you for being with us on this journey into the depths of Battlestar Galactica, and remember to keep watching for further deep dives into more such beloved sci-fi worlds. Until next time, peace out!
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.